Welcome. This is episode 3 of the Just a Moment Ago podcast. I'm here with one of my good long-term friends, Samantha. Her story is actually a pretty unique one. I mean, through all of her struggles and the pain, she still has a want to put the past behind her, continue to try to fight for a better future and a better life for her kids. So, Sam, it's great to have you here today.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Good to be here.
Oh, I'm glad that you're here. Glad you're open to coming in here and sharing your struggles and triumphs with us.
Of course.
So, where are you right now? I mean, you said that you were in a program till December.
Yep, I was in the Suboxone program until December. Took the Sublocade shot and basically just quit cold turkey. After that, I wasn't going to start taking them after having the shot one time and not taking them for a month. So I just quit taking them cold turkey after that. And
Right, so the shot, is that like another treatment or?
yes, it's just the same as the Suboxone. It's just in a shot form that you only have to get once a month instead of taking it daily.
Oh, okay. That's interesting.
It's actually nice especially for people who know that they're going to be incarcerated or things like that, because then they don't have to withdraw.
Oh, yeah, for sure. So you can take it like well before you go and it lasts. How long does it last?
Well, you get 2 shots originally, and then you get a maintenance shot after that. After that, you get a maintenance shot every month. And then you don't have any withdrawal. So if you don't, some people even forget their appointment.
That's
after
crazy.
4 weeks, and that gets to 8 weeks, and they're like, oh shoot, I need to go get my shot. Because you don't have any withdrawal, nothing.
Now, is that, if you do use on that, does it put you in withdrawal? Is that a different?
That, I don't think so. I think that one is.
Or is it if you use before you get the shot, it'll put you in withdrawal? I know one of the shots.
Yep, it's if you use before you get the shot, it'll put you in withdrawal.
Right, you have to be clean, I think, for 5 to 7 days or something.
As long as it's, yes, you can be on, the Suboxone, but you have to be clean of heroin, fentanyl, methadone.
Right. So you get drug tested.
Yes.
And they're gonna, so they'll know if you did, and then you'll get withdrawal too, which that's no fun, especially from that situation.
Right. No kidding.
So
you're trying to get better, and you just makes you feel worse. It sucks.
Oh, definitely, right?
Yeah.
So you have 3 kids?
Yes.
And are they at home right now?
No, my youngest lives with me full time.
Okay.
And then my older 2 live basically 50-50. I have them every other weekend and every Thursday right now. And anytime that they're off of school, we basically split the time. They actually live with my aunt and uncle. And they've been there 2.5 years now. Hopefully soon they'll be home. But they are in a good place where they are right now. So and I've come a long way with my aunt and uncle with our relationship, and it just fighting with them and arguing with them because they have my kids just makes it harder on my kids. So,
right.
We worked out. We got a pretty good relationship going on, and it's most of the time pretty easy to talk to them about things and work things out for the kids and with the kids. And gradually I've increased. A year and a half ago, I got my youngest daughter back full time after she was gone for 11 months. And ever since I got her back, I've just been gradually increasing visitation with the other 2. First, I wasn't even having overnights with them. I was only having unsupervised visits for 2 hours.
Wow.
So
that's crazy.
Yeah.
Just a couple hours. So they're all 3 with your aunt and
my youngest is with me full time. The older 2 are with my aunt, but
sorry.
They were all 3. Yes, they were all 3 with my aunt.
The other 2 are there, and you have your youngest full time.
Yep.
Right. So I want to discuss a little bit more about that in that process, but let's just go back a little bit and go to where did your journey actually begin with substance? Was it a boyfriend or a best friend or?
It was high school boyfriend. It started out just smoking weed. And he always hung out with, like, way older people.
Right.
And so then, they were doing pills, coke,
whatever. So you were introduced in high school.
Yep. I think I was 15. I was 15 the first time that I started smoking weed, and I think I was probably closer to 16 when we started taking pretty much anything we could get our hands on.
Right. See, when I met you, you were 19, right? Or 18?
No.
Was it before that even?
Yep, I think it was when
17?
I was 16 or 17, because I was with Mason when I was 15, 16. So.
Oh, really? Mm-hmm. I guess I was thinking of it a little, like a year or two different there.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So you were actually introduced before you were even 18, and Mason wasn't the best example to lead you into adulthood, that's for sure.
No.
So, like, what did you start using, like, with him? Were you using with him?
Yep. Him and other friends, a boyfriend and girlfriend that we were living with basically at the time. I was constantly a runaway. His mom didn't really care, so we stayed with our friends as often as we could.
So,
and
even as a runaway, his mom didn't care and would just let you stay there?
Mm-hmm.
Interesting.
Yep. Even the town cop actually would sit in the car wash across the street from his house and watch me walk into his house when I was supposed to be at school. And the reason I found that out is actually because I was smoking a cigarette one day, and about a week later I flicked my cigarette out into the street and walked into the house. About a week later I got a ticket in the mail.
In the mail?
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, and it said on there that he seen me walking into his house with a cigarette. Yep.
But they didn't come pick you up or
nope,
anything? They would just let you.
They just, yeah.
That's crazy. They just let you. Was it because you were underage that they let you, or?
I think it was just because they were more watching what was going on with my boyfriend at the time, and so they weren't really trying to get me. They were just. You
were kind of the reason that they could say that they were around.
Yeah.
Like, we're looking for Sam. We seen her.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. And actually, one of the times that I was a runaway, one of the officers had texted my phone. My mom must have given them my number, and one of our other friends, Jared, he actually messaged the cop back and said, "Sam will come home when you bring us some donuts." And then when I got home and the cops were at the house, the first thing they said was, "Who's the one that made the remark about the donuts?" But they couldn't do anything because he, too, was a minor, so...
Right. Yeah, well, text messages are hard to prove who actually said it anyways,
yes,
so, I mean...
Yes, true.
It would come down to your phone, but you could just say someone had my phone.
Yeah, and I mean, it was just the point of, like, I was a runaway so often, and the cops knew me and knew my mom and everything, that it was just... It was, like, a thing. You know, it wasn't out of the ordinary for me to pick on them or for them to pick back at me or anything, because we had so many run-ins with each other.
So everybody was just used to it. So you had kind of a rapport with them where they didn't really come down too hard on you, per se.
Yeah.
They were just kind of playing the game with you because you kept playing the game too.
Yeah, pretty much.
That's crazy. I mean, but... Now, that is also a small town world, right?
Yes.
Like, this isn't
very, very small
a big
town.
City life. The cops aren't necessarily, they might look at you different in a small town where they might know you or your parents. Mm-hmm. Even in school, they just know a lot more about you.
Yeah, and actually the town cop's wife actually worked at the high school I went to, so, he knew me from school and... from the streets, so, and everybody knows everybody in a small town. It's not like you see somebody walking by and you're like, who's that? Mm-hmm. If there's somebody out of the ordinary, everybody in town knows it.
Right, for sure. That's definitely true. Depends on, even in some of the, like, city, Eau Claire is not, 90,000, and that even lives like a small town sometimes.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, compared to some of the bigger cities nowadays that are.
Yeah. If you're in a
million.
Even smaller town, you're definitely going to know things a lot quicker.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think there's only like a few thousand people that live there.
Right. So, when you were using as a teenager and coming into 18, 19, at what point did you, was it that young that you realized that it was a problem, or was it fun? Like, when did it actually become a problem?
It was all fun when I was a teenager. Then I got pregnant at 18, and my dad took custody of my son. I gave custody of my son to him at 9 months old, and then him and I had a bad relationship. So then those years I partied. I didn't think there was anything wrong with it because I didn't have my kid.
Right.
He was well taken care of. It wasn't probably until, honestly, before my kids were taken away the very first time, I remember laying in bed one day and I was withdrawing really bad from meth, and I'm going through so many different emotions, and I'm like, no, I can't do this. I gotta stop doing this. I'm gonna text everybody and tell them not to give me any more. Right. And I did. I texted everybody, every single person that I knew that could get it for me, and told them, do not give it to me. I don't care how much I cry, whine, whatever. Block me if you have to. 6 hours later, I was begging everybody for dope, and they were bringing it to me.
And they give in.
Yep.
No matter what. Yeah.
And that's exactly when I knew that I had a problem. That, and when I was smoking meth and falling asleep.
Because your tolerance was so high that wasn't even keeping you awake.
Yep.
That's crazy.
It was, and that's when my mom was kind of trying to not believe what everybody was telling her that I was using, and I obviously wasn't. I obviously was not going to say anything to her. Mm-hmm. But we got the opportunity to move into my uncle's house in Menominee, and my mom jumped on it because, she thought that way she could at least take care of my kids for me.
Right.
She basically was just going to do whatever she needed to do to make sure that my kids and I stayed together.
Mm-hmm. That's good. That's good.
Up until it actually happened.
Right.
Not to throw my mom under the bus or anything.
No.
But she... when they came to test me, and they set up a parenting plan right when my kids were taken, and I knew that I needed about 3 to 5 days to get clean, and I had told my mom they had a meeting set up for Friday, and the original meeting was 7 days prior, so the Friday before. And it was like Tuesday or so, and I told my mom, like, you have to tell them that I'm not, like, I'm going to stay home. I'm not going nowhere. I promise you, like, I will be here until Monday morning, but you have to tell them that I'm not here so that I can get clean over the weekend and then piss clean, and then the kids can stay. Mm-hmm. Well, my mom ended up going to the meeting with the kids, and coming off of drugs, especially meth, is not, pretty much the only emotion that you feel on meth and coming off of it is anger. Mm-hmm. And, when I found out that she was actually at the appointment and she had told them that I was at the house, I snapped. I actually told her I was going to slaughter her like a pig.
Wow.
Something that I never really thought that I would tell my mother. But in that moment, you don't really know even what you're saying. And so then they told her that, you are not safe with the children, so...
They told her that just from you saying that one thing, like they took you that seriously in that moment.
Yep, it even says in the paperwork for my parenting plan that I called on the date. I called my mom on the date of it. Actually, the social worker had called me and said, why aren't you here? And I said, because I'm in a wedding. I told you guys that.
Right.
And they're like, nope, your mom told us you're at home and you're hanging up your bedroom door. And I was like, I hung up on her, called my mom, didn't even think they were in the same, didn't even think about it that they were in the same room, and she had me on speakerphone.
Oh my goodness.
So.
But why was your mom trying to out you? Like your mom was trying to out you? Like. Like, I'm not trying to put bad on your mom. I know your mom. She's a good person.
My mom is awesome. I love my mom to death. But she was looking out for my kids at that point. You know, she was looking out for, she knew that there was a chance that I, was going to turn around and go right back, or anything like that, especially with the guy that I was with, So
So who were you with at that time?
Then I was with John, Journey's father.
Okay.
And I mean, he's got a really long record since he was 12 years old. So
yeah.
She just basically was trying to protect them and get them safe without trying to not make me upset about it. And yeah, it just didn't go the way she planned. She beats herself up for it, so I try not to, it's hard for me. But honestly, my kids being taken away was a blessing in disguise, because there's no way I would have quit.
Right.
There's no way, like, I had to have that taken, like, the love you have for your kids is a love like no other, and having that taken away from you is a huge eye-opener. Like,
right.
They were taken on November 9th. John was arrested on November 12th, and I quit 3 days later. It was like everything happened right in a row, and God was just like, sit down and shut up. Here we go.
Right.
You're doing this. This is what you need to do. So, and it was a battle. I mean, I had smoked weed for 11 years, consistently every day, and they wanted me to quit.
Right, and you're not just with weed, you're giving up multiple things too. Like.
Yep, I was, I couldn't do meth, couldn't take pills, couldn't, because I was actually abusing Adderall for, I don't want to say abusing because I wasn't abusing it. Self-medicating is what the doctors call it.
Of course.
I was taking that for a year and a half before I started using meth. I mean, shortly after my daughter Emma was born, she has lots of health issues, and so once I stopped breastfeeding her, I started taking Adderall, and it honestly worked great. I wasn't taking an excessive amount to where I was feeling high. I was just,
right.
I was a manager at Hardee's. I was doing really well for myself, and then it went from, I had all these people that I could get Adderall from, and then all of them started doing meth. So then they got their Adderall taken away, and then it was like, well, I guess I have to do meth now.
Right, and Adderall is a weird thing like that, where it's close. It is pretty much meth, isn't it? It's meth crystals. Like.
Yep, I actually learned in Al-Anon when Journey's dad, John, was in treatment, that meth and heroin both. Meth is one molecule off of Adderall, and heroin is the same with Percocet.
That's crazy.
Just one molecule.
That's
Isn't that crazy?
One little thing changes it, so now they can give it to you and make it okay.
Yep.
Gotta love the pharmaceutical companies, right?
No kidding. There's a Tom McDonald song, and it says, "Big Pharma doesn't cure you, dog, because every patient that gets cured is a customer lost." And I believe that 100%.
Oh, for sure.
It's ridiculous. Like, it's a population thing, control. But
well, to be honest, it's weird because even this morning when I was driving and I thought in my head, like, I can't believe we live in a society where cancer is looked at more as a moneymaker than something to cure.
Yep.
To me, that's crazy that we are at that point. Mm-hmm. We should be trying to heal and recover everybody, because there's enough death and ways to die. There's plenty of ways to die.
And the thing that's ridiculous to me is that, like, the states are putting in all this money to build places like the Ark, where they give you free Narcan, they give you free clean needles,
Right.
They give you fentanyl test strips, which is great, yes, because there are addicts in the world. But why can't that money be put towards treatment centers that people who don't have the money to go, because 99% of those users out there don't want to be users. I promise you.
No, I definitely agree. I've been around it, I've seen it, and I know too.
So
you don't
hard.
want to be an addict. Once you reach that point, you are not feeling good. You're not living a good life anymore.
Yeah.
Like, your quality of life diminishes the longer you're an addict.
Yes.
Basically is how it is.
Yep. Certainly true. And I mean, even me being 2.5 years sober, it's still a constant battle, you know? I don't have the desire to do meth or heroin. However, and meth, that's something that it disgusts me. You know, was also diagnosed ADHD by my Suboxone doctor, and so I am medicated, which also helps, I'm sure.
Right.
But if I were to ever have heroin in front of me, I don't know that I could say no. So I avoid it at any and all costs.
Of course, and that's the best way to be, is just to stay away from it. Don't put yourself in a position to even have the chance. You know, it's hard, and sometimes you have to really adjust your life and the people that are around you too. You know,
definitely. And they say, like, you can't change if you stay in the same place. I know it's hard for a lot of people. John, Journey's father, he has been sober multiple times in the 5 years that we've been together on and off, and you know, as soon as he gets bored and one of his friends messages him, you know, it's over. And anybody that's like that, they can try so hard, but it just takes, you know, like you can do it, but you just have to be strong enough to tell those people, you know, no.
Right. Well, that's what I think people, if you've never been in addiction, one of the like hardest things about addiction is once you've stopped and you see those people from the past, you start to remember. You don't think of, I didn't have this, I didn't have money, I didn't have a home, I messed up my car, whatever. You start to feel, God, that felt good when we were hanging out and I was used to, it was so nice, just chilling, just felt good. And then next thing you know, you start to think like you're going to want to go back to that, but you have to be like, no, look at the whole picture. Don't glorify using in the euphoria, because that is such a minimal part of the whole pain that is addiction.
Yeah. Like, and I was in family treatment court for 2.5 years, and when I was getting ready to graduate, I went in and sat down with everybody, and they sat there with me and they helped me build a toolbox. And it's got, like, they printed off my court record, they printed off, you know, police reports, things like that. I had a possession of meth on my record. They pulled that police report, put it in there.
Is that a felony?
Or yep, that was a felony. Yep. I did the GAGP program and got it expunged though. So,
okay, that's good.
Yep. And when I have moments where I'm like, man, you know, what if I just took one hit or whatever, I go to that toolbox and I open it up and I'm like, look, I have all my papers in there from CPS when my kids were taken both times.
Right. That's good.
Everything, because then it puts me in that zone that this is what actually comes from that. Like, yes, it feels good in the moment. The first 2 days, 3 days, you feel like you're on top of the world.
Right.
But then it's literally minutes, and your world starts to come crashing down, and you don't even realize it.
Just a moment.
Last summer, actually, Journey's dad wanted to start seeing her, and I was allowing him to as long as he was coming to my house.
Right.
You know, he didn't have anything with him. He had to take a shower as soon as he got there. I had clean clothes of his at my house for him to put on. You know, you do not bring, and I'm searching your clothes when you're in the shower, because you're not bringing nothing in the house.
Yeah. And people will. If you don't search them, they will.
Yep. I mean, it would make him go straight to the shower as soon as he got there. But he... Oh, shoot. What was I going to say?
You were talking about when he got there and shower and you were going through his clothes. To see...
Damn it.
Did you lose it?
Mm-hmm.
That's all right. We can come back if you remember.
This is what addiction does to your brain. Like, it's
Oh, it's those moments right there when you're talking and you literally lose it while you're talking. That is one of the
happens to me
worst
a
feelings. Like, and that you can only attribute that to using. Like
Yes.
that's happened to me a lot, and I dislike that so much because you feel you're just like, I was literally just saying this, and I was and it's gone as I'm saying
Yeah.
it. Like,
Yep.
oh, what
And
a weird.
I usually have to be reminded of like what I was talking about before that,
Mhm.
and yeah, it happens. It literally happens to me every day,
That's crazy.
multiple times a day usually.
Right. So, I guess one of the other things though is, did you have any like illnesses, or what kind of side effects were you having from using? Like, what kind of changes did your body go through? Because for me, when I was going, my body went through a lot of changes.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, I've never really been a fat person. I was always skinny even after having kids, except for this last one. But that's okay. I'm totally fine. I tell everybody that this is my sober bod. It's like a dad bod, but better.
For sure.
But my body, losing weight, I was a size 00 after having 2 kids from using meth. And when I had relapsed about 6 months after I had gotten sober, and that was right before I quit smoking weed too, finally. So about 6 months after the kids were taken, I relapsed on meth. I was doing it for a few weeks, and then I got locked. My PO locked me up, and I quit everything when I got out. So I was only there for 5 days, but it was enough to scare me off.
For sure.
So, but it was probably a month and a half later when I got pregnant with Journey. And I was a month and a half sober then, but her dad was only 3 days sober the day that she was conceived. And we had never, ever used, in the very beginning of our relationship we did, but we've never used any protection or anything. So that's another thing. Fertility, eat for men or women, drug use.
Yep.
And then
Big
when I
time.
got pregnant with her, I weighed 120 pounds. And when the day I gave birth to her, I was 195. So, and then after I left the hospital, I was 165 and have not cared to lose any of it. I don't ever want to go back to being that skinny again.
Right. Do you just feel like you're unhealthy when you're that skinny? Like,
oh yes. Even when I wasn't using, before I had ever even done drugs, people have always told me, like, eat a cheeseburger. Well, I worked at Hardee's for 4 years. I've eaten a lot of cheeseburgers.
Right, for sure.
So, it's something like, people get picked on for being fat. People get picked on for being skinny, too. Like,
definitely.
It sucks. I even had considered, at a point in my life, getting some sort of implants, not like breast implants, but like butt or hip or, something, because I had literally nothing.
So
my dad would call a carpenter's dream, flat as a board, easy to nail.
Oh, no. That's what your dad was saying?
That's what he used to say to my mom.
Jeez.
Because, my mom is real small. She's like that, big around. So, yeah. I definitely needed to put some meat on my bones. My skin, my stomach, I've never really had stomach issues, but when I was using meth, not only was I smoking it, but I would eat it. I would wrap it up in, they call it parachuting. I would wrap it in tissue or toilet paper and take it like I was taking a pill.
And that actually is like a good way to do it? Does it?
Well, it's a very unhealthy way.
Well, I'm saying as far as getting it into your system to use it.
It hits you almost immediately because your saliva soaks into your, it soaks into your mouth.
Like in your gums, you mean, or?
Well, yep. When you're swallowing it, and the saliva makes it wet, and then that's absorbing into everything as it goes down.
Right.
So then it's absorbing right into your bloodstream. Eating it, is actually close to equivalent to shooting it up.
That's crazy.
It is crazy.
I would not think that with eating it.
Yep. Just because when you're shooting it up, you're putting it straight into your bloodstream.
Right.
When you're eating it, everything in your body is made to absorb what you're eating or drinking into your bloodstream.
For sure.
Because you're supposed to eat healthy things and do healthy things, not things like that. But my stomach, at least once a month, I wake up in the middle of the night and just throw up. And go back to bed, and I wake up in the morning and I'm like, all right, I'm fine, you know.
See, that's nice though. You're lucky that way, like
very.
You don't have any like pain because of it, like after you're throwing up or before.
When I'm throwing up and after I'm throwing up, I usually have like stabbing, shooting pains in my stomach, you know, and it almost feels like they like go through my intestines, like the pain, you know, your intestines kind of go around. It just feels like it's shooting all around in there, you know. And
right.
I also, I was on Suboxone for a long time. When I first started taking Suboxone, it was like 2.5 weeks before I had a bowel movement, and then my body just kind of got normal again. And then when I got off of it again, it was like 2 weeks before another one. And that's not healthy at all.
Right? No, not 2 weeks. That's two a month. Like, no, that's not healthy.
Right. Right. At all, you know. And I mean, if I would take like a stool softener or like Miralax, anything like that, I would throw up.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even helping. I've been on. My doctor has put me on an anti-nausea med consistently. Like, I have refill after refill if I need it, because especially when I was getting off the Suboxone, but even still, sometimes so nauseous. Wake up in the morning, everything's fine, get ready for the day, and then all of a sudden I sit down and it's like this heat wave over me, and I start sweating immediately, and I just feel like I'm going to pass out or puke, one of the two. So, but when I take the anti-nausea meds, 9 times out of 10 that helps.
And how often are you taking those?
It's at least a couple times a week still. I mean, it was every day.
That's crazy.
In the beginning, and I really do not like grape flavoring. I love grapes, but I would.
Oh yeah.
Grape flavored anything is disgusting, and the dissolvable tablets that they have are grape flavored.
Mm-hmm.
So that grape plus that like chalky, disintegrating pill taste in your mouth, it just would make me want to puke more. So
I get it.
So then they had to give me the tablets. Well, they don't work immediately like the dissolving ones do. So usually I have to, if I take it with milk, the milk will usually calm my stomach down enough until it kicks in.
Are you using dairy milk?
Yes.
You should switch. Dairy milk it causes more issues than
that. Does it really?
Yeah. If you switch to
dairy milk.
But if you switch to like a vanilla oat milk and did it, I bet you'd feel even better. Like dairy milk is.
I think I could probably try that.
I try hard to get people off of dairy because I don't believe in it. I get it.
Don't you not know who I am, dude?
We're in Wisconsin, and and that's fine. Eat your cheese, but just don't drink milk. That's all I'm saying. Like I
drink
substitute
a gallon of milk a day, so
the milk with
issue.
Oat milk and eat your cheese. That's what I'm saying.
All right, I can try.
Just try it once. I mean, when I switched, I've never gone back. Like oat milk actually is good.
I just love
right.
And I'm a whole milk drinker too.
Sure.
And a whole gallon a day.
You could get a richer oat milk.
Yeah. It's, growing up in, well, I guess I didn't really grow up in a small town. I grew up in Seymour, so the suburb of Eau Claire, basically. And then in high school, when I was in a small town, it's the farming, when I was farming.
Mm-hmm. I get it.
Right out of it.
I get it.
Drink right out of the tub.
And before I had stomach issues, I would drink milk. I didn't think about it, but since 2016, late 2015 to early 2016, when my stomach issues really started getting bad.
That's when Emma was born, and
I've had to really change and get rid of like milk. I do oat milk now, and that seems to do really well.
I'm definitely gonna have to try it.
But it can't be Planet Oat doesn't have like a lot of fillers. You have to be really careful because they put oils, like a lot of stupid oils in them, like sunflower oil, stuff like that for fillers.
Well, you're gonna have to.
So why buy it if it's full of fillers? That's how I feel.
You're gonna have to tell me what kinds are good then.
For sure.
You're gonna have to
Planet Oat's the one that I try to stick with, and you can typically get it everywhere that I've like your Woodman's around
that,
here.
Planet Oat.
Get your oat milk.
Sponsor.
Yeah, right. Get your oat milk.
Yeah.
That's funny.
If you want to advocate for it, I mean.
Right.
Hey.
But we should so now we actually haven't talked about the actual. So when you had Xavier, there's a big gap between Xavier and Emma. Mm-hmm. What is the actual age gap?
Xavier was born in 2009, and the end of 2009. Emma was born in the beginning of 2016. So Xavier had just turned 6 when I had Emma. And when I was pregnant with Emma, I actually found out that she had kidney issue. It's called hydronephrosis, and it's a blockage between the bladder and the kidney. And I can't remember what the name of the tube is that it was in, the blockage was in. But then when she was 4 months old, I had to be monitored every month at the hospital in Marshfield, which is an hour and a half away.
Right.
And then once I got closer, I had to do it every week. So,
right.
But then at 4 months, she had to have a surgery to remove that blockage. But as soon as, like I had said before, Xavier went to live with my dad when he was 9 months old. His dad and I had split up. He's Hispanic. Nothing. I'm not racist in any way against them. However, they are very family oriented. However, the men are very controlling over their women once they're theirs. Marriage, child, etc.
Right.
So when I got pregnant with Xavier, I was not allowed to work. We got an apartment. It was a 1-bedroom apartment. It was $450 a month. And that included water and electric. So, we barely had any bills. He was working on a farm. He speaks fluent English. And he would work like 16-hour days being the manager of the farm and the Spanish translator. So, wow. He made $1,600 every 2 weeks. So I did not have to work. I got to stay home with our son. Mm-hmm. Then he came home one night, and he had been gone. He got off work at 10 o'clock, and it was about 2:30 in the morning, and he got home, and he just reeked of tequila, and I told him that if he's going to keep drinking, we weren't going to continue. Then he kept trying to leave. I wasn't going to let him leave. So he put his hands around my throat and pushed me up against the wall. Well, we're arguing, and that woke Xavier up, so he's in the bedroom crying. And, I'm telling him, let go of me. Let me go get our son. Like, right. Get out of here, dude. And, he had never put his hands on me before like that, so I, threw me through a loop. And I called the cops. I was scared,
For sure.
When I first started, hanging around with Mexicans, my dad is extremely racist. So my whole life, I was taught to be afraid of black people, Asian people, Mexican people, So I was deathly fucking afraid, And I called the cops, and then he obviously was incarcerated. And when he was there, he had bought me a vehicle when I got pregnant. And while he was incarcerated, he had the spare key, and he sold it.
Oh, jeez.
The guy went to the jail and picked up the keys, I should say, to it. And put $1,800 on his books. And then when I went to go leave, I had Xavier's car seat, walking out to the car, and there's the base of his car seat and a plastic bag with all my belongings sitting where my car was.
Wow.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Then I was like, what am I going to do now, So my aunt and uncle, the ones that currently have my kids, they helped us get the apartment. Before I was 18, I was living with Mason's aunt, and she had actually stolen my identity, used my social security number and stuff to put XL in my name at her house. Crazy. And never paid the bill. So when I went to get an apartment at 18, they were like, no, you got bad credit. And I was like, how do I have bad credit, And
you shouldn't even have had credit, really.
Right.
At 18
it should have been zero at that point,
yeah,
So, and then, so they had to co-sign for everything. And obviously, I wasn't going to let him back. So, and I wasn't, when you are that young with a baby alone all the time, I was like, nope, I need to go be with some friends. I went back to town I went to high school in, started hanging out with friends down there. My dad didn't want You know, it's not that I was out partying every single day, but my dad knew that if I was going somewhere, that I would be taking Xavier with me. You know, not that
Right.
I would be drinking and driving with him or anything like that, but I would take him.
Right.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
and so he had offered to help take temporary custody of him. Won't go into the details, but it ended up being permanent guardianship. And instead of going to court that day like I should have, my dad's like, you already signed the papers, you don't have to be in court, it's totally fine. And
You were supposed to though, and he told you not to,
well, it was optional for me to go.
Okay.
You know, so he was like, nope, you don't have to be there, you stay here and watch Xavier. When he was there, or when he filled, like, he had spilt on the paperwork, he told me, and refilled everything out, just had me sign it. The paperwork all looked the same. The only thing that was different is the temporary and the permanent. I didn't look at it. I trusted my dad.
Crazy.
So when that's why he did that with the court thing, because then he's like, now you can't say no. Like, I would have been like, excuse me, no, this is supposed to be a 90-day thing.
Mm-hmm.
Then he ended up, him and his girlfriend at that time split up because he took Xavier, and then he ended up starting to see my sister's mom. And so that, you know, he just took him. And I was living with him even when all of it happened. And when he got with her and decided to be with her, he told me to get out and took my
crazy.
kid. It took me 6 months after my son came home when he was 6 years old to get him to call me mom. My dad told him that my name was Sam.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I'm grateful that my dad took him.
Oh, for sure.
Absolutely grateful, because, you know, he probably could have been taken then. And then what? I was young and dumb then. Would I have even, you know, I love my son to death. He's my number one man. We have a great relationship now. But
right,
when, you know, when I was 18 years old, I wasn't making good decisions, obviously. You know, a
lot of people aren't.
I'm 32 years old right now, and I'm still struggling with, you know, making decisions.
For sure.
I'm getting a lot better, but...
Right.
So...
There's not a lot of people at 18 who can sit here and say, I made good decisions.
Right.
You know.
Exactly. And, you know, and I regret a lot of my things. A lot of the things that I've done, I regret. But I don't regret them enough to make them haunt me, because
For sure.
I wouldn't know the things that I know today. I wouldn't be who I am today. I would, you know, I used to be extremely against people who lost their children.
Yeah.
I used to think that those people were scum. They were fucking bad people. Because how could you not? How could you do that to your kids? You know? And God was like, be humble. Look I'm taking your kids.
Well, and that's what's cool. So Xavier's wasn't taken through that period then, because your dad had him.
Well, when my dad, up until he was 6, my dad had him. Once Emma came home from the hospital, which was 2 weeks after she was born, so the beginning of February, I asked my dad for Xavier so he could come stay for a few days. He just didn't come back and get him. You know, he figured I had Emma and I was in a good place. I was single. I had a decent job.
But he still had custody?
Yep.
He just let him stay there.
Yep. And then, I ended up contacting child support at a later time and letting them know, because they were still, he was still getting a check for a while. So
right,
I called them and let them know, but then they never, did anything. You know, it didn't really matter because I still had all my rights to him, just that he was in that guardianship. So then when I lost custody of the kids, obviously you would think that Xavier would have went with my dad because of the guardianship. However, my dad didn't want to take both.
Right.
And I don't believe that he would have been able to take care of both of them anyways, especially Emma is a wild child. She's the second one. They always are. She's an Emma. They always are.
I can see that, though, because Xavier is different than Emma, for sure.
He is extremely calm.
Yeah,
you know, he is that kid, man, that kid makes me so proud. He is on the A honor roll.
He's a good kid, for sure.
He plays his heart out in every sport. He just did wrestling. I never thought I was gonna be a wrestler mom.
He just wants to experience life. He's just curious.
And that's another thing that's great about him being with my aunt and uncle right now, is that they can afford to put him into those things. I mean, obviously, there are programs and stuff that I can get for
Right.
him if I couldn't afford it. But it's nice that he doesn't have to worry about that right now, you know, and he is able to experiment with the different things. I mean, he plays
Right.
baseball, basketball, wrestling. Next year he wants to try football. Like, he's in archery. You know, he's getting himself involved in all sorts of stuff. And my uncle told him that for every A he gets on his report card, he gets $20. So every semester or every quarter, he gets like $150.
Nice.
Yeah. So, and I mean, I hope that keeps it up, because
For sure.
that's definitely incentive that I would have, you know.
Mm.
But I was around Xavier's age when I moved to Strum.
Right.
So it was, I mean, he's in 7th grade now. I was in 8th, but that's kind of when my life took a turn. But my parents also were getting a divorce, which is another time that I also threatened my mom. Chased her with a steak knife. I've always been a huge daddy's girl.
Yeah.
So when I found out that, you know, she broke my daddy's heart, oh, heck no, I don't care who you are. That's my dad.
Yeah.
But, I mean, and I didn't talk to her for 3 months. And, you know, on a kid that's always been with her mom for 13 years, and then now she's not, or 12, something like that.
Yeah, 3 months, actually. If you're from always to that, that's crazy.
I was just so angry, you know. And to think of it now, like, my dad is, like, he is not grateful of his time that he had with me, you know? So it's like, even though I needed that 3 months, like, I feel like he was just kind of using that as a thing to hold above my mom.
Yeah.
But, and my dad wasn't really around a lot when I was a kid. He's hunting, fishing. He's a race car driver.
Mm-hmm.
So, his race car was always his top priority.
Of course.
And sometimes he'd be gone for a couple days. Obviously, this was way before cell phones. So, you know, my grandma would come over and there'd be like a sleeve of saltine crackers in the cupboard. And she'd be like, my mom would be like, only eat a couple of those because we don't know, you know, how long until Troy will be home.
Wow.
And so then my grandma would go and buy us groceries and stuff. But, yeah, he just, you know, he means well, I think, you know.
Right, and people do sometimes. They just don't know how to.
Yeah, and he has a hard time showing any emotion besides anger.
Yeah, I can see that with your dad, for sure.
I definitely had to learn, you know, and I have a 11-year-old sister right now who is unfortunately learning the same, you know, you got to put that hard shell up with dad, keep your foot down, because, you know, he's got it's like his way or no way kind of mindset, you know, so even if you try to. We actually got in an argument at my son's baseball game last summer because he told me that addiction is a choice.
I knew that's what you were going to say.
Yep, he said,
that's what you were going to say.
I've done all the drugs in the world and I've never been addicted. It's all, if you want it, you are going to be sober. Okay, Dad.
Obviously,
you know, and you've
he's
never done meth and heroin, Dad.
Has he ever had alcohol issues?
I mean, yes, but he's never thought that it was an issue, you know.
Right.
And like when I was younger, he would go, you know, fishing with his friends, racing. Every night after the races, they're drinking, you know. And I mean, it's Wisconsin, everybody drinks here.
Yeah, we got more bars on the corners in small towns than we do grocery stores and gas stations.
Yeah,
it is what it is here. Yep. You know. So.
And sometimes that's nice, sometimes it's not, you know. But he, you know, that whole side of my family really are, not that they're alcoholics, but they are heavier drinkers. My mom's side of the family now, my grandma and my step-grandpa both were major alcoholics for a long time. Both of them ended up getting sober. My grandma actually celebrated 39 years sober the other day. Crazy. It's so awesome.
That is awesome.
And it's awesome having somebody,
managed to...
It's awesome having somebody that's in my life that close to me that has gone through, like, life was so much different 39 years ago when she quit, you know?
For sure.
So, and, like, drinking was the thing back then.
I don't know how was AA looked at back then and stuff. I feel like it was probably a lot more stigmatized than it is now.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah,
now so
definitely.
many people are going through some sort of, you know, counseling or addiction treatment or something to feel better, you know.
Mental health. That's
Exactly,
mental
right.
health is like if I were to take addiction, I would put mental health right in the middle.
For sure.
Like
And then everything would
without
stem
mental
off of
health
that.
issues,
Like,
yes, without mental health issues, like, and nobody doesn't have something mental
of
health
course,
issue.
for
You
sure.
know, and you can think that you don't, but you do.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there is something and everyone is addicted to something also too. Like,
Mm-hmm.
take your phone away. You know, right now I'm with someone who has a pretty hefty record. He's a really good guy. But because he has a hefty record, he's frowned upon. And you know, he did his prison sentence, a couple of them. I mean, it's not like he killed anybody,
Right.
you know. And when his kids are in foster care, and he went to prison shortly after, and his ex-wife struggles with addiction as well. So my family, I should say, is all, you know, extremely judgmental of everything that's going on there, you know, trying to say that I'm not allowed to bring him around my kids because because I was honest and told them that he had a relapse. Like, really?
In jail or when?
No.
What do you mean?
He was 2 months sober before he went to jail.
Okay. So he is. How long does he have then?
We're not sure.
Okay.
He has court on Monday.
Okay.
For his new charges, and then basically go from there. His probation officer's trying to revoke him. So we'll see. But if he has his lawyer is trying to drop the charges down to a misdemeanor. He's fleeing and eluding. He panicked.
Yikes.
And his vehicle is in his boss's name. He works for a construction company. This guy is incredible. He knew that he had a relapse, told him, go get help, come back. Like, he came to work when he was high and was getting sick at work and everything. And the guy was, like, noticed it and gave him a pair of heated, like, $1,500 pair of heated boots because he was walking to work every day.
That's crazy.
Like, this guy is really awesome. So he was, just about to be going back to work because it's spring. And he panicked that he wasn't going to have a place to park the car where it wasn't going to get impounded.
Mm-hmm. And
then, if he were to get locked up and the car get impounded, he's going to be contacted. He's going to be, so he panicked, tried to find the first parking lot, but he was on the North Crossing. Where's their parking lot? So, but
there's not many.
But he did stop willingly.
Yeah.
And, so his lawyer is trying to...
So in trying to, like, get to, like, the Quick Trip or, like, the hotels over there, somewhere to park, they called it fleeing because it was probably a little bit further away than he should have driven.
Yeah.
He wasn't actually running.
Yeah, and he didn't... There was no high speeds. It wasn't... He went with traffic.
Were they trying to, like, accuse him of maybe throwing stuff out or eating evidence? Like, was he eating it or something like that? I think
that's what they were thinking, that he, and he had an empty pipe, like a clean empty pipe in the vehicle.
It was clean, though?
It was clean, yeah. It was from when he had his relapse. And he forgot that it was even in there,
Yeah, that. Yeah.
So, yeah. And it sucks because somebody can be so criminalized, basically, in the community that just because he's a criminal, he's a criminal.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Just because he has these records, he's a bad person. And that's not it at all. Like, he had 2 months sober. He's working with CPS to get his children. He was starting to finally advocate for himself and say, look, I need help. I'm institutionalized. I've been in prison for, too long, too many times. Twice. But
it's hard
too many times,
admit that, too.
Right. And he was seeking, he was also going to the clinic, was in contact with the doctor at the clinic almost every week, he wanted to get on antidepressants, and they were worried about something with his heart, so he went down on his methadone and made himself uncomfortable so that he could get on it.
That's crazy.
Went and sought counseling by himself, did all these things. But because he's a criminal, because he has the past that he has, because he had a relapse and was honest with his probation officer, all these things.
Yeah.
They're laying it down on him. But yet, the girl that, John's ex-girlfriend, stole nude photos of me off of his phone, sent them to friends of ours on Facebook, and God knows who else, made an OnlyFans page with my photos.
That's crazy.
And then that was 2.5 years ago when that happened.
I think
she was just finally sentenced on that the other day, because she has continuously caught charges since then. 2 of them being possession with intent to deliver of fentanyl. When she went to jail the last time, she was in a raid. She was at her dude's house, and he got raided. And
you're saying when she went to, not after she got out and was on bail and then got.
Well, she went to jail 4 times in like a 2-month period. The first time she had a $2,000 bond, got out. 3 hours later, back in, $2,500 bond. Then she got out like a week later. Then like 2 or 3 weeks later, she got locked up again, $5,000 bond.
Jeez.
She was in there for a few weeks at that time, and then her mom bailed her out. And then next time she got smacked with $15,000, and she just got out on electronic monitoring. She got 5 years of probation. But because she doesn't have a criminal record. She's getting felony possession with intent to deliver of fentanyl, the most deadly thing in society. But because she does not have a record before that, she gets 5 years on probation.
That's crazy. Have you heard of this benzo fentanyl?
Yes.
That's supposed to be even worse than regular fentanyl.
You can't be saved.
Yeah. I just seen this like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I heard about it too. It was like probably last summer, I would say, late fall or early fall. There were pressed Percocet pills going around, and they were straight fentanyl.
You mean the blue ones, or?
Yep. They had blue one. I think it was blue and white.
Yeah, I heard some people talking about that stuff.
It's just like, why? It just doesn't make. I know why. I know why they do it.
Yeah.
But
you just put yourself at such a high risk by taking a pressed pill that somebody on the streets pressed. How are you supposed to know that, though? Right? You don't know what they pressed in the middle of that thing or anything.
It's just like any other drug too. Like what they cut with it, you don't know. I did coke with baby laxative, and I sat in the bathroom for 4 fucking days. So
coke could have so many things in it nowadays. And when you live in Wisconsin, by the time it gets here, you really don't know what's in it.
Yeah, no kidding. Actually, one of my friends told me that her and her boyfriend got coke for her birthday, his birthday not too long ago, and she's like, it tasted like laundry soap and ether. Like, gross. That's literally what it tasted like. I was she's like, I tasted it. I didn't even do any of it. I just tasted it, and I was like, nope. Not gonna happen. Nope.
That's horrible.
God only knows. It's unbelievable the way drugs are nowadays.
Everybody's experimenting. They're learn. The internet makes it so people can actually try to make stuff at home on their own. That's what it is. Everybody's concocting what they want, and once they figure something out, then they go give it to people. Mm-hmm. And it's not until somebody's in the hospital with a problem that they discover, oh, this drug is here now. It's really crazy.
Yep. And even without the internet, people are, back in the day they were making shake and bake. Are
you talking about the meth?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They had that on TV when somebody was doing that. I had some dangerous business right there.
That's one of the things that Journey's dad got mixed up in when he was 12 years old and he was selling meth.
That is so
nuts. Like, you get around, and he's always been one to hang out with older people as well. You get around the wrong, like, it just takes one person, man. And you think, especially when you're young, and they make you think, like, oh, you're going to be cool. You're going to, this is, and even, like, I was always the kid that, like, looked up to, like, all my parents' friends and stuff like that. And so, like, had any of them been like, hey, do this, I definitely would have done it, because I was like, I love her. I want to be just like her.
When you're younger and you don't know better,
Yeah. So, I mean, and if you get yourself around them people, it's over. Doesn't matter. Like, I have a 17-year-old sister and an 11-year-old sister. And I told, my 17-year-old sister is a lot better, thank God. She was going out and partying all the time and just, like, I want to trip on acid. I want to do that. I'm like, girl, no. I'm like, you are going to end up on the same path I was. She's like, no, I won't. I'll never do meth or heroin. I said, Maddie, that's the same thing. I said, the exact same. I used to be so afraid of both of them. And I always told myself and everybody else, if you ever hear of me doing heroin, it's because I want to kill myself. Because that's what's going to happen, right? That's what I had assumed for so long. And then, my daughter's dad, John, there were some allegations on him through my CPS worker that I still believe is bullshit, but it made him want to die.
John is Journey's dad. Dylan
is Emma's dad.
And
Gaspar is Xavier's dad.
Gaspar. I could not remember his name. Struggling with it.
So, Casper the Friendly Ghost, that's his name, and his name translated into Spanish would be
Casper. Think I remember that from back in the day, yeah.
That's how I try to remind people.
One thing I was thinking, though, like, so, with Xavier being, how old is he now?
He's 13. So,
is there going to be a time when you do have all three of them, or is Xavier going to stay living where he is?
So the reason why my dad couldn't get Xavier when they first were taken is because Xavier is all Emma has ever had consistently.
Okay.
So, like, obviously she's never had her dad in her life, and she did have me consistently up until she was taken, but then they didn't want to separate them because of that.
Right.
So, and being as how Emma was almost 2 years old when she was taken, she had already had that bond. Her brother was already helping take care of her, things like that. So, when my dad said that he couldn't take both, that's when they reached out. They actually reached out to my aunt and uncle who have them now, and they were with them for a while until I started making threats to them, too. Well, when they take your kids, it's a whole different level of anger when they take your kids away.
Well, right, and that's actually something I kind of wanted to touch on. What is that process like? Like, when do you know that they're coming to take your kids? Like, what is that like the day that they come to take the kids?
So, obviously, like, I was getting sloppy. People were over at my house all hours of the night. I mean, my neighbor called me one night. I was passed out. And he was just flipping out because people were outside with flashlights digging for night crawlers in my yard at like 4 a.m. Yeah.
Yikes.
Yeah. Yeah. So,
and this is while you have the kids at home?
Mm-hmm. This is when they were still home, yep. And I was back. I mean, I woke up once and I had a note from Xavier that said, Mom, I went to school. I love you. And it was just heartbreaking.
I can only imagine.
Shit, see, here it's happening again. What were we just talking about?
What it's like when the state actually comes, like when you know that's gonna happen.
So, I knew that they were watching me, especially because I was living in the small town again, and the cop knew me and everything. I kind of knew that they were...
Who was watching you?
The cops.
Okay.
I definitely had you know, my lights were always on, always had cars there, stuff like that. And so I kind of thought that they were going to come when I lived there. When I moved to Menominee, I was not expecting them until I took my son to school for his first day orientation, whatever. We didn't move there until Halloween, so he had already started the school year out down there and then moved to Menominee.
In Strum, you mean?
Yep,
Okay.
yep, in Strum, and then we moved to Menominee. But that day when I took him to school, apparently they noticed that I was high, so then they came to the school and talked to my son. And my son comes home from school and he goes, Mom, the ladies came to the school today and talked to me, and they asked me if you do drugs, and I told them that you just smoke ciggies and smoke weed. I was like, oh boy. So, you know, then I knew, but that's, you know, I was ready to stop at that point, but then when they came and the protection order went into place and everything, like, I just panicked, I think. And, you know, and like the first weekend, I was home for probably 12 hours and then I was out.
Right.
So, I mean, it was bad. And
well, because you go from a house with kids to a quiet house, is that like...
Well, no, because my kids were still there at that point. My mom, we set up a parenting plan for that week before that meeting, the initial meeting, because they came on November 2nd to talk to us and put that parenting plan in place.
You remember these dates really well. Like
November 9th is my parents' anniversary, and it is the day my kids were taken. So
like really sticks with
me,
you, right?
Like, obviously, my parents getting married wasn't a bad day, but
now that they're divorced, right?
It's a hard day. Mm-hmm. It's also my uncle's birthday, so I try to make it positive by that, you know.
That's a lot on one day.
Yeah, but actually, the girl who posted those pictures the day that they got raided was November 9th. So it's starting to get better for me now that I'm not using drugs, I think.
Mm-hmm. For sure.
But so that would have been a week later when the meeting happened. So when they first came and did the parenting plan, they were like, no, your mom can keep them here with you, but we're going to come, you know, when we have this meeting next week, you're going to piss, and if you're dirty. Mm-hmm. So, you know, and that weekend I went out. I was out all weekend. I was awake all weekend. And that's when I came home on Tuesday and had talked to my mom about, you know, talking her into not going on Friday, etc. And I literally slept for 2 days. Friday came and I finally could get up, and then that all happened, and it was just like, you know, and then I went really hard that weekend too.
Well, right, because you were distraught, I would imagine, at that point.
Yep. But
so then, after that, then what was the process of actually getting them back to your house?
So it's different between the different drugs. So because I was doing meth, and meth is such I don't even know how to strong drug that it sticks to literally everything and it seeps through your pores. So snuggling with your kids, anything like that,
really
puts that into their system.
That's crazy.
Smoking it in the house, and that, like, I tried in the beginning, I would smoke outside on my little like porch thing or in my garage. Mm-hmm. Then I started getting sketched out by doing that, and there was more and more people, and so then I started moving into my bedroom, and I would just lock the kids out.
Right.
But they're still coming in there when I'm not smoking. So,
of course.
You know, so my daughter had, they test your levels. My daughter was at like 2,300, I think. And normal users are between like 4,000 and 6,000. Mine were at 6 something. So she had quite a bit in her system.
For sure.
But
and that's just
I always coddled her because she was the baby, and she always, so she was always in my room cuddling me and everything.
And that's why, because she was up against you a lot.
Yep. And they never actually tested my son just because he had short hair. They didn't want to cut it any shorter and embarrass him, So, but they had just assumed it's in him or it's in her.
It's most likely, yeah.
And then when my kids were taken the second time, they did the same. They didn't test either one of my first kids. They just tested Journey, or my older 2 kids, I should say.
Mm-hmm.
But so with meth, they want you to have. It's approximately a year to get them back.
Wow.
They want you to have 3 months, at least 3 months of sobriety with with supervised visitation with the social worker, and then they assess at that time if it's going to move to unsupervised. Obviously, because I was still smoking marijuana, I wasn't clean, so I was still having supervised visits.
Right.
I had supervised visits with my kids up until, like, it was probably 9 months that they had been gone before I started getting unsupervised visits. And then
That's crazy.
I was pregnant with Journey, and she was due in February. And Emma got to come home right before Journey was born, and that's when COVID hit. I wanted my son to finish out the school year and his school not have to switch again.
Mm-hmm.
But then COVID hit, so he got to come home too. But if it's heroin, and only heroin, it could be just 30 days.
What?
You can literally
So
not
meth
out in the vehicle with your child in the vehicle and get it back in 30 days because you only did heroin. Sometimes they don't even take your kids for heroin.
Oh man, so that is about as backwards as I could think of it, because getting clean off opioids is not a 30-day process. That is a long process. That is incredible.
So the first time that the kids were taken, I was only using meth. I wasn't using heroin at that time. It wasn't until they were taken the second time was because I was using heroin. And I had used meth one time, and I admitted that to the social worker, and because of that, Journey was gone for 11 months.
That is incredible. Like,
all because I was honest. And you know what? Every single time, well, the first time they did a hair follicle on me in the very beginning, obviously, I had levels. Every time that I had a relapse, or like when they took my kids the second time, nothing shows up in my hair. So I don't know if it's just because it was such a short time that I used.
What were you using? Were you using any shrooms?
No.
Okay. Because I know that I've had some interesting thing with a drug test and shrooms in the past where it's actually covered up everything.
Really?
Because it like metabolizes things so quickly.
Wow. Interesting.
Yeah, I discovered it through a little trial and error.
Yeah, I bet. When you're in that state, anything, whatever works, shit.
Yeah.
I mean, I used to be like best friends with my boyfriend's soon-to-be ex-wife.
Mm-hmm.
And when she has a child with somebody else now, and she was struggling really bad when she was pregnant with him, even, and like shooting up while she was pregnant with him and stuff. And
it's crazy.
it's just like she was drinking baking soda and water to pass her drug tests. I'm like, for one, you're doing.
Does that even work?
Apparently, because
baking soda and water, and everybody's out here buying fake urine. And you're telling me that the baking soda that's in the cover, there's tons of it, just mix it with water. It probably would just make you bloated, wouldn't it?
I'm not sure. It's like,
that would just make you like
it, she said
gassy.
That she would get like sick, like maybe the gas bubbles just make you nauseous.
Right, like she would vomit. You mean
or
yeah,
shit,
it's got to be something with mixing it and causing a gas reaction.
So I'm like, really, you're shooting up and you're doing that to your baby, like.
That's crazy.
But I mean, the baby came out and was fine.
Right.
So, and I know many people that have used. I mean, shit. When I got my kids taken away the second time, I was using heroin, and when I was high, I was breastfeeding. I breastfed both my girls, and when I was high, I wouldn't breastfeed. And then when you drink, after you drink, you're supposed to pump and dump 2 times before you feed. So I would do that, and I would bottle formula feed her then, and then I would feed her.
Right.
Not thinking, that stuff stays in your system for 3 to 5 days. So even though I'm not high right now, that's still in my system. You know, I didn't think of it that way. My thought was, I'm not high, so it's got to be such a low level, and they only get 0.016% or some shit. You know, so I was like, it's got to be fine.
Well, and stuff like that doesn't have much of a compared to like methadone, it just doesn't last. So it's,
yeah. So I mean, I didn't even think about her having anything in her system. You know.
And she did. That's crazy.
Yeah, and it sucks. Like, that's why, like I said before, like I feel like God kind of had to humble me because like. I can't even judge her on breastfeeding or doing drugs while she was pregnant because look at me. I breastfed my kid drugs.
Oh, I don't. So, I'm not here to judge anybody on what they do.
And I am like one of the most judgmental people ever now.
Like, we make our choices, and we all will make our choices, and a lot of times it's regardless of what other people say or do. At the end of the day, we are still going to make the choice we want to make.
Yep.
So, I mean, you can have people talk to you all day until they're blue in the face, and when they walk away, you're still going to do what you want to do in the end of it, you know?
Yep. Oh, yeah. And I mean, even when I was trying to get sober, like, I would tell myself, okay, I'm not going to do that again. Like.
Well, right. Like, I know, like, you had started that cleaning business. Like, you were doing really good with that for a long time.
Yeah.
Like,
I still have it.
Yeah.
I
just not keeping everything like booked as much, or
yeah. And I over the winter I hit a pole. So I was out without a vehicle for a month and a half, and I was just borrowing like my neighbors' vehicles when I was able to. So a couple of my clients had to find somebody else, which I understood.
Yeah.
So, and right now I'm trying to get back into school. So I don't, and also it's almost spring, so college move-outs are coming, and those are money makers.
Yeah, for sure.
So
there's a lot of them here.
Yeah, no kidding.
Living in a college city.
Yep. So I was like, I'm not gonna, this happened in January, and I'm like, it's still winter time. Like, nobody's looking for cleaning people in the winter time. Like, it's very scarce in the winter. So I'm like, I'm just gonna hold off and start doing some classes for school before I start taking on more, because I still have a few clients, so I can still get by with what I got going on right now, so, but I hope to eventually, make it big, but
if you keep going, you'll get there, as long as you keep booking people and keep it going, Just don't. The biggest thing with it is just you can't stop. As soon as you stop, then you can't grow.
Yep.
Like, as long as you're even doing one job a week or 2 jobs a month, anything to keep on going forward, you know?
Yeah,
like,
and that's like I told my clients that I still have now. I'm like, you guys aren't stuck. Like,
right.
You guys are not allowed to fire me or find somebody else or nothing.
Right.
Like, you guys are stuck with me. Once I start getting more clients, then.
So, like, what is your goals, like, moving forward and towards the future? Like, you've been through a lot, you know what it's like on one side of the coin, and you don't want to be there,
right.
And I mean, I've felt that side too, and I know it's not a good place to be for anybody that wants to do better and have their kids, and like, I know you want to have your kids, and what's your goals and plans to move forward and beat all this, beat addiction and stuff?
Well, my big dream is to build a tiny house and homeschool my children and travel. And I've missed a lot of my kids' lives already.
Right.
Emma is 7, Xavier's 13. I only had them for 2 years, and then almost 2 years again. Or no.
I can't believe that
like
your kids are that old already. Like, that's so crazy.
I know, dude. And Xavier is taller than me, and
he's taller than me.
Yeah. He's got this low voice.
Now he does. I haven't seen him since he's voice lowered. No.
Yeah, he left one day, and he was this little boy, and he came back, and he's a grown man.
Yeah.
I'm like, what happened to you? What? And I'm not used to being a mom of a teenage boy. Like, he's like, Mom, can my can my friends come over? Yeah. They're coming down in booty shorts and, like,
Oh, no.
Balloons in their booty shorts, pretending to be, like, girl, wearing my bras with balloons in them. I'm like, oh my gosh. I totally thought that I was going to, like, I was not expecting this at all.
Mm.
And then when he was in wrestling, too, I'm so thankful. He didn't want me to go to his matches because of the outfits that they make him wear.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and my
he didn't
uncle
want you
is
to
like
see him?
religious about going to his things. So thank God, I'm grateful for that.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, yeah, you know, I am gonna go to one though, just so you know.
Yeah. Oh, for sure, you have to go to one.
And he usually had meets on Thursday nights, which is my night to have them. So I would have his sisters, and they're not like the meets are long. It was like 9-10 o'clock by the time they're done. So the girls cannot sit there that long. They're gonna be stir crazy. So it was difficult because of that. But when I went to the last one, it was like watching them kids put, like, my son's trying to wrestle them and they're putting their hands on my kid. That's my baby. Get your hands off of him.
Oh, no.
Like, I was literally sitting, like, I was chewing on my phone and tapping my leg like this every time. Like, it was
That's
so
crazy.
bad because I just wanted, and the one kid kneed him in the eyeball, like when he was trying to flip him around. And he had a big old bruise on his eye, and I was like,
wow.
Where's that kid from?
That's
what school's he from?
crazy.
We gotta go find him.
Got him good.
That's my baby boy, and he used to be very, very
like
rude
reserved?
to me.
Oh.
He would make comments like, "Great parenting, mom." Like,
I think I remember some of that stuff.
Yeah, and it's totally flipped now. He is like,
he's growing
he
up
is a mama's
bit.
Boy. Like, he's always been a mama's boy. Anytime the social workers would ask him anything, if he thought that it was going to get his mom in trouble, he would not say a thing. And they would say that. They would be like, look, we asked Xavier this and this, and he keeps his mouth shut. He will not talk to us. Even if I told him, like, it's okay, you can tell them this.
But him being the oldest, though, he how do I say it? He's expressed things to you about being hurt, though, and stuff because of things that have happened, right?
Yes.
Like, I know that you've told me that in the past.
Yep. Yep. And actually, when they were, before I got them back the first time, the social workers were talking to him, and they were like, you know, what are your feelings towards your mom? And he said, I'm disappointed in my mom, but I'm really hurt by my grandpa. You know, my dad always told him that he was going to protect him, and, you know, so, and I think that had a lot to do with it, too, in the beginning, why he was so, like, hurtful.
Right.
Because you're my mom, you're supposed to protect me, you
For
know?
sure.
And, you know, and he doesn't know how hard I tried to fight to get him back, and how, like, the troubles and the struggles that I dealt with my dad, and that I don't want him to know those things, you know? But, you know, he's getting older, he's starting to see how his grandpa is, you know, and he's starting to see, like, yeah, I have a bad past, a really bad past. People look down on me for it all the time, but I'm an incredible person now. Like, I have such a big heart. I mean, I've always had a big heart, and I always loved hard, but I don't have, it's like a judgment-free zone now. I don't have that where I'm like, oof, you know?
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my gosh, how can I help?
Right,
kind of
for
thing,
sure.
you know?
And that's such a better way to be. Like,
Yeah.
It is definitely a better way.
We gotta take a break, because
But yeah, it's
good qualities, but they're qualities that suck to have sometimes.
Yeah. Well, it's a lot easier to help people than be the other way anyways, and always trying to put people down. And
Definitely.
like, I don't even know how some people can get through their day the way that they act, to be honest. Like,
Yeah.
always negative and angry.
You know exactly what you're talking about.
It's just not, I mean, but I don't know, it's so hard though. Like, I regret some of the things too, like with Emma, like back then when I was sick from my stomach was so bad, and missing the baptism with her, and like stuff like that is just not, you have to look back and really try to accept what you've done, and how do you just like not let it bother you for the rest of your life, kind of thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
know?
Yeah, and I would go back in look at photos from like when I was using, and it would just put this, like, literally this 500-pound weight on my chest, and I just couldn't I still can't look at those pictures. I mean, I can, but it's still hard. That's something that I put in my toolbox too, you know? Like, Emma was my girl. Like, I was going to dress her up. I was going to, you know, I was so excited to be a girl mom. And then she wasn't. You know, her hair was greasy. She wasn't getting baths like she should have been, you know, like, she was, you know, towards the end, I was locking her in her bedroom when I would get high because, one, she would either come to the door constantly, and I just didn't want her anywhere near my door. And, you know, people coming in and out all the time, I didn't want her interacting with all of them. And then I would, like, go in there, and, like, she'd have the entire room trashed. She's got poop spread all over the walls and her toys and stuff because she didn't.
She's just doing whatever.
She's just bored in there, you know? And, like, yeah.
So you were, like, trying to keep her away from these people, though. Like, you were, like, I mean, that, it's hard to do.
You know, I was even trying to keep her away from, like, all of it, you know? Like, when I would do things with my kids, which, you know, I did a lot more things with them when I first started, you know, and I obviously weaned down. But, like, I would try to take them out of the house or, you know, go so that they didn't have to be in the house all the time. And, you know, I was out, like, constantly trying to clean my room and so that when they would come in there, you know, they weren't touching things and whatever. But, I mean, CPS don't look at that stuff when they, you know, they don't care about none of that stuff, you know. Like, and I was telling you about that business that thought would be cool to start earlier about bully breed dogs, but another one too would be like my mom and I actually were talking about this when we still lived in Menominee because we had a 5-bedroom house, but a place for mothers of children who are, you know, addicts that have children. Like a home where they can go and get sober and have their kids. You know what I mean? And not have them taken away, where they have support systems that can help them take care of them. And, you know, because if they're in this home, it's almost like being in a halfway house or, you know, a treatment center. But you get to have your kid or your kids. Like,
there's things like that for people.
No,
like,
there's
that's
not.
crazy.
Yeah.
I
mean, it's so hard to get into treatment as it is. I mean, there are.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Number one treatment facility that I have ever researched on is called the Reckless Saints of America, and they are in Oklahoma. It's called Flight School, where they teach you how to live again.
That's
they teach
awesome.
you basic life skills. They teach you how to write a resume. They teach you how to make food if you need to. Like, they teach you how to live a real life.
That's what treatment should be.
They help you find a job in their community. They help you find an apartment so that when you get out after the year-long program, you are set up.
Right.
You know? I actually was trying to get John into there before he...
That's inpatient, though? You'd have to stay there and then they...
Yep. And then, you know, once you're getting towards the end and you know, working towards getting your own place, then you would be able, you know, I'm sure they give you more leniency and stuff.
Right.
But I tried getting John in there, and this is how fucked up the system is. He had 9 months left on probation. The program is a year long. It's out of state. She would not even put in a request to the DOC because he only had 9 months left on probation.
So 3 months.
Now he's in prison. And guess what he's learning in prison? More
so he
people
could have
to get along with out here.
Like, couldn't he have just went and stayed 3 months on his own? Like, if he wanted to finish it? Like, or you have to have, like...
I don't know.
That seems like a really weird situation where...
Well, and... I mean, even with my boyfriend, David, he... Coming out of prison, institutionalized, begged for help. All she gave him was the phone number for Vantage Point. And I can tell you one thing, that place is nothing.
Yeah, and then they find themselves back in a situation because they didn't get the proper help.
My other buddy is in jail right now. He has just got out of prison right around the same time David did last year. Around this time last year, actually. And, you know, he slipped up and started doing meth again, and begged his PO for 3 months to put him in treatment. And she finally caved and said, the only way I can put you in treatment is if I revoke you and give you an ATR. So he's sitting in jail right now, waiting for a bed in treatment.
That's so crazy. See, like, one of the biggest issues I have with these programs and stuff is, like, so, for example, the people that get put on contracts, they get put on, like, a month or two contract, they make a mistake, they get kicked off, they get tapered off of 200 or 150 milligrams of methadone or whatever in a month, 4 weeks. I mean, you are setting people up for post-acute withdrawal, because you're going to get it if you don't taper properly and heal right, and 2, for relapse and to be right back in the system. Why not have a program where these people actually are getting the help that they need? Right. Not everybody is going to work in the same type of program. Like, a lot of us can, but there are people with much more extreme mental health issues that are going to lash out, be more aggressive, and do things that are going to get them kicked out. Did you unmute your mic?
Look at me. When I was, when I moved in with my mom, that was basically like, that was me going to get help but still being able to take care of my kids.
Right.
Then they got taken and they went with my aunt and uncle, who they're with now, and she had told me that I was only allowed to call once a week and have one visit a week. Well, that's not what CPS had told me, and it was a weekend, so I couldn't contact my worker, and I just snapped, told her I was coming to kidnap my children and blow her house up with her in it.
Yikes. And that's not what you say.
No,
in those
and
situations.
I regret it, and I have apologized a million times for it. I would never do it. They're my aunt and uncle. I love them. They did a lot for me when I was a kid, and they're doing a lot for my kids. Like, I will never, ever be ungrateful of what they've done for me. But, man, I was upset, and you don't think about stuff like, you just think, those are my kids, man. Those are my kids. That's my pride and joy. That's everything that I have. And then she ended up getting cancer, breast cancer, and just wasn't going to deal with the threats. And then she wasn't healthy anyway. So they went with my cousin on my dad's side and her husband, and we had a horrible relationship. I wasn't allowed to be her friend on Facebook. I wasn't allowed to have her cell phone number. Like, literally, if I wanted to talk to my children, I had to call their house phone and hope to God they were home.
That's crazy.
And, like, their phone supposedly couldn't call my phone number. So my son would want to call me. And
did they just block it so it wouldn't dial out?
I think so. Like, and, I mean, they were constantly putting up allegations on me, my mom, John, everybody, like, saying, oh, the kid, Emma said that her mom smacked her in the mouth in her car, or punched her in the mouth in her car seat, and her dad threw her on the roof. So then I'd get investigated. I wouldn't be able to see my kids for 2 weeks.
On the roof of the car? Or
the roof of the house, apparently.
How do you throw a kid on the roof of a house?
Well, when people throw kids up in the air?
Yeah. They're saying that he threw him that hard that he went on your roof.
Yeah. Like, she,
That's crazy.
And also she's 2 to 3 years old at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Like, 2 to 3 year olds make up... Journey is 3 years old. She just turned 3. She tells me the craziest, wildest freaking stories. Like, well, she thinks her dad lives behind a door right now because she goes and sees him in prison and he comes out behind a door. She's like, my daddy lives behind a door.
Wow.
She knows he's in prison though, so she will say. I heard her taking a bath last night and she was telling my babysitter, she's like, "Did you know that David's in jail and my dad's in prison?" I'm like, it's sad, but, like, I'm not going to lie to her, Right. And, I mean, she's going to the...
Well, she'll get old enough to learn it,
Well, and the thing is, like, I want her... Like, people are like, why would you let her go see her dad in prison? Because her dad is sober, for one thing. He was around her sober for about a month before he went back and ended up messing up and went to prison. So, and I didn't let him see her again after he went back.
Right.
I wasn't going to let him see her while he was using.
No, right, for sure.
If she was just around him sober, So he's sober right now. He needs that motivation to stay sober, you know? And, like,
if you're doing it in a safe way, it's okay.
Right. Yep, exactly. And, I mean, they're monitored there. It's with his mom. I got denied, probably because I'm the victim of...
So his mom is the one that takes her in?
Yep. And I want that bond between them so that when he does get out, she's not scared and doesn't want to have a relationship.
He's a stranger.
And, you know, I was, like, extremely supportive of him in the beginning, you know, was, like, going to stick by his side and everything. And then, I mean, everything changes. Obviously, everything changes. Feelings change.
Mm-hmm.
If you would have told me in January January, and told me that I was going to end up with David, I would have told you you're fucking nuts.
Yeah,
like,
that's
nope,
life.
And I wasn't even attracted to him, I would say, and, like, nope. Then when, like, the day he got locked up is when I realized, like, yep, this feeling is real.
It's crazy because they say the heart wants what it wants, and there's just nothing you can really do.
Right.
Like
yep.
It is what it is.
The situation is, like, he came out of nowhere. We have tons of coincidences. His mom lived you remember when I lived with my dad in that duplex?
Yeah.
His mom lived 4 houses down from there, and that's the house that he grew up in.
That's crazy.
Like, so many coincidences. His sister dated my buddy Justin that just recently passed away, or actually it was a year ago. Like, so many odd coincidences. We should have crossed paths so many times.
Right.
Like, we had all the friends that him and his sister had in high school were all the people that I hung out with.
Like, you're, like, going down this parallel, and you guys are, like, so close, but you're just not quite crossing. Like,
we went to middle school together, and he remembered me when I moved into the apartment I'm in now. His mom lives there, too. So he seen me and was like, hey, you're Sam Franzway, right? I was like, yeah. He's like, recognize me? And I was like, nope. He told me who he was. I was like, damn, what a crazy world. And yeah, I don't know. But I had to tell John then, you know, like, I'm still here to support you 100%. I still want you to do good. I want you to stay sober on the outside. I will, you know, I'll definitely work with you on our daughter, you know, with our daughter.
John tries to have a relationship with Journey, doesn't he?
Yes,
like he wants to.
He wants to, but for a while CPS wouldn't let him really because he was using. They did monitored visits anyways, so it wasn't like they weren't paying attention anyways.
Yeah.
But they will actually pay more attention if the parent is using or if they have it in their system.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I got her back, I knew that if I started to see him again, that I was going to, you know, I did really good for quite a long time without talking to him or nothing. And so I was like, nope, not going to do it. Then I ended up giving in, and it all started, like, last year on my birthday, I beat the crap out of him because I caught him doing a drug deal. And God knows what else in my apartment when I was at the bar for my birthday. He was supposed to be there with me.
I know. He's done some crazy stuff for sure.
So, my life literally, like, I brought him back around again in February. Journey's birthday's February 23rd. And that was like, the day that we, like, had a huge discussion and, like, he wanted to try and, you know, get sober and do shit right. And from there, my life just slowly went, and then I cut him off again for a while, and it's like after that, started to go back up. I was doing good again, and then I let him come back around. He went to jail and came out.
It's like the line graph of John, like good, bad, good.
And of course, the day that he got out of jail, I had to go. My neighbors had a hearing, and I was given custody of kids that weren't mine.
Jeez.
By CPS. That feeling, that was the most amazing feeling in my life. Like, they used to be looking for a foster mom for my kids. Now I'm the foster mom. Like, that's crazy.
Right.
That's, like, the most amazing feeling.
That is definitely a switch.
But they had the court hearing or whatever. The same day that he got out, he got released. He was literally walking down by the courthouse when I was pulling up to the courthouse for the hearing. And
crazy.
Yeah, and he came back around, and that's, my life started going again, and I. Is he
like a kind of like you just can't, like, he's one of those people that you just kind of mingle with no matter what, like.
Well, I think it's got a lot to do with the fact that, like, he needs somebody. Like, he has borderline personality disorder. He struggles. He's really afraid of abandonment. He feels like he was abandoned as a child by his parents. because he was angry, you know, and I mean, doesn't matter if they're your kid or not. Sometimes they're scary, you know? And so he would always make threats, you know, I'm going to kill myself, I'm going to whatever, blah, 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 blah. And I would just stick around because I thought that I was madly in love with him, you know? And I mean, I do love him. I probably always will.
Right.
But I mean, I even felt that way about Dylan at one point, and
you feel like you can be the one that can make this person be different and change because maybe you're important enough to get this person to see that life
was going to change John, you
right,
know?
Yeah.
Nope, he was getting picked up by his side bitch. Well, his girlfriend. I was a side bitch, technically.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she picked him up from the hospital where he was with me, took him to his buddy's house. They got high. He came back. Like, that's messed up, bro. Like, you are
crazy.
And I just put up with it because that was normal, you know? And it was almost like an adrenaline rush, you know? Like, haha, he's with me now,
right,
kind of thing. And, like, I would, like, post about him when we would be together all the time and, like make sure that everybody knew that I was with him at that time. And she did the same thing. I think their relationship started, and she knew me. She knew who I was. We were friends.
That's crazy.
Not necessarily
so
friends,
it was like a back and forth of like you would post so that you would know like he's with me right now, you know, be jealous, like, and then she would do it, like.
Yep. And I mean, I blocked her. He would make us block each other, and.
Yeah, so he could play a game. Like,
and I mean, he used to go to my sister's work every day, and my sister would tell me, and then he would deny it and like start kissing ass and whatever, you know, like, or I'm gonna kill myself, and then I'd feel bad, and 2 days later he's calling me crying and he's sorry because they got in a fight and she kicked him out. But I think it was an adrenaline rush for her that she was, you know, she was constantly battling me and she was winning.
Of course.
And for him, it was, the kids were taken. They put allegations on him. So they.
About the kids?
Yep. They believe that Emma was sexually molested, actually. I do not believe that it was Jonathan. Never know, though, you know? I have my other thoughts on it, but...
Well, with that, like, definitely don't make accusations unless you know, because people can definitely catch some bad stuff over that type of stuff. So
literally closed the case because he wouldn't comply. Because he was using... Why is he going to answer the phone for the fucking sheriff's office? He's high as fuck. He's not going to answer. So you're just going to close the case? My counselor was like, I've never heard of them.
No kidding. Like, what is...
Not on a child molestation case. And I asked
Did they not believe it? Like,
they swear it was him, that he did something because he was on drugs. Just because he loves that little... And then I was like, Emma loves him. Like, if even still to this day, I bet if John and I stood next to each other and Emma came out, I guarantee you she would run to him.
And you feel like if he did something, she wouldn't love him like that.
Yeah, but they said, oh, yeah, that's why they do love extra hard, because they think that that's love, blah, blah, blah. No, she was 2 years old, yo. If you're sexually molesting her, that's going to hurt. She's not going to think that's love. She's going to think she's being punished.
Like, at some point, right.
And I asked them to have the foster dad at the time be questioned, and they told me that I was disrespectful because he is the man who is raising my children.
See, that's messed up.
Yep.
Then someone that's might be the one doing it gets to walk around and continue.
And my cousin, his wife, does in-home daycare. Ridiculous. And my cousin is the sweetest soul. She's awesome. I love her. I'm grateful for her too. Her husband is a complete dick. He treated my daughter like complete shit. His kid could literally dump out a gallon of milk, and he would blame Emma.
That's crazy.
Like, right in front of him. And it just...
That's one of those things where when you are in that, like, where you've created sort of a troubled past around yourself, it gives people the right just to point at you and blame your kids, blame your boyfriend, blame everybody that they can, because they just don't know who else to blame. So... Here, let's just point at the people who caused trouble before, because it might be them, you know, like, if it was or not, and it just sucks, and that's why it's tough. Like, really got to try to not make those decisions to let people be able to do those things, because it sucks being blamed when you didn't do shit. Like, it's not cool at all. And
and they wonder why my daughter has trauma issues, and obviously they ripped her away from her mom. John was her dad. That's who she thought was her dad for the longest time.
If they've never taken the time to get to the bottom of the truth either, like, when she gets older, if she understands that, like, she'll realize what went on and that nobody took the time to dig deeper,
Yeah. I'm in the process of trying to find a lawyer that I can get a free consultation with, and I got the police report from the sheriff's office. I'm waiting on transcripts from the counselors, the therapist, where she was going, because I don't want to bring it back up to Emma if she doesn't know about it, but man, I need to know.
Right.
Because that's something that eats at me every day.
Yeah.
My aunt was like, I don't want to bring it back up to Emma, so we're not going to push it, because, it's been years since they've even questioned her about it or anything, which I get that. And my aunt was also molested as a child too, so she has a different feeling about it than somebody else, so but the fact that I don't know the truth, it just eats at me. And even though I don't believe that he did anything, it still kind of makes me feel like, did he do something? Like, I 100% do not believe it.
It's because 100%. you don't have justice at all,
yes,
so you don't have even the beginning of a suspect, so you just don't know, but you don't want to accept or believe that is the case. Like, it's really a tough situation.
Well, and they were saying like that she was using like Lincoln Logs to masturbate at 2 years old and shit. Okay, 2-year-olds are curious. Okay, Journey has found herself.
They know that for sure, or that's what someone said.
That's what my cousin said that she did. And then apparently she woke up in the middle of the night screaming that daddy touched her privates. But when I would have to take her home when she was living with them, she would scream bloody murder because she was afraid of the foster dad.
So is that the dad she was talking about? Like,
that's what I'm saying. Especially because they have kids. So
just because she said daddy, if she goes to a foster care, there's a daddy there.
Right.
You can't. That's real. And then of course
they're going to, because he did drugs, that they're just going to blame him because he's such a bad person.
And if she's that scared of him.
Yeah, that's why I wanted him tested and, questioned, whatever, because they told John, they were like, you have to take a psychosexual evaluation, but you have to pay for it, $2,500.
Of course.
Like, no, if you want me to take a psychosexual evaluation because you think I did something that I know I did not do, you're going to pay for it.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's why it's never been done, because he just refused, and I don't blame him. I wouldn't have, no, fuck you. If you think I fucking did this, I did not do this. I know in my heart that I did not do this, so it doesn't matter what I teach my kids that.
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't matter what anybody else thinks of you. If you know for sure that that's not true about yourself, you need to just ignore them or say, that's not true, and walk away. Like, I struggled moving to a small town from a bigger city in high school. At first, everybody was like, ooh, the new kid, and then after that, it was just no. And, I was in basketball, so I was in with the jocks and whatever, and I was did dance and cheer and all that, but at the end of the day, my real friends were like the stoner group, whatever, the nerdy group, whatever.
Yeah.
So then I got bullied forever, and I don't want my kids to ever feel like that, or ever make anybody else feel like that too.
Yeah, exactly. Right.
It's something that I have instilled in my son. Like, I beat that.
I can't see Xavier ever doing that, like being like that to somebody. Like,
I can't either, but if he hangs out with my dad enough.
Yeah, he could become that way hearing it.
Mhm. Yeah, and I mean, my dad, like I said before, my dad is extremely racist.
Mhm. And he'll probably never change even for a young kid or not. He's going to act the way he acts. It's instilled in him as an adult, so it's...
Yep, and he doesn't, he has told me before that he only loves the white half. Like, that's some fucked up shit to say, bro.
That is, considering, that Xavier is actually dark skinned. Like,
yeah,
that is crazy.
Yep. But, I mean, what can you do, really? But he also then says that Xavier is an American. He's not Mexican at all.
Yeah.
So he's not that he's trying not
He's just trying to make it better in his own mind.
Right.
Like, he sees this dark-skinned kid and he wants to be his racist self, but he's like, this is my family.
Just like him.
Right.
My son looks a lot like my dad. And my son is me. Like, literally, you put long hair on him, and that is me.
So then he's like, it's my family. It's someone important to me. I don't want to...
Probably the one person he loves the most in the world right now.
Right.
Like, the one that's alive.
And that is interesting. It's very interesting that he's racist, but yet it's the colored kid that he loves the most, and he's got to overcome that. Like, it's crazy.
Yeah, but he's so, like, set in his ways, so...
Well, I had an uncle in Ohio that was racist too, and my cousin had a black baby, and he loved it too. I mean, you change when it comes into your family. Like, you can't stay that way.
Oh, yeah, like, and he knew, I mean, obviously he knew my boyfriend was Mexican when I got pregnant, and he was one of the first people at the hospital when he was born. So, like, I think he was like the third person to hold him.
Yeah.
It was me.
That's crazy.
His dad and him.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I mean, that's his boy too,
Right.
And he raised him for 6 years, even though he didn't teach him things that he should have taught him. He still raised him, My poor kid didn't learn how to pee standing up until my brother-in-law taught him when I got him back.
Right.
I didn't know that until, like,
that's
a couple years ago.
Crazy. Wow.
Yeah. And there's some things that, like, my dad works on cars. You'd think, and he was a race car driver, you'd think that he would want him under the hood and, helping him out. But he just is that kind of person that, like, if you don't do it my way, I don't want you to do it at all.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
And I get that because I'm that way sometimes too, but I have to put that aside. Like,
right.
Obviously, I'm a cleaning lady. So, obviously, I know how to clean, right? And I've got to teach my kids how to do chores and stuff. And it drives me nuts when they don't do it right. Right. But I have to set that aside and let them do it, and then I can tell them and try to guide them to doing it right. But it's hard, but I have to tell myself all the time, like, they're learning, and they're not going to do it like you.
For sure.
They're not going to be perfect, like.
It is crazy when you want something done your way, but you are trying to let somebody else do it and mess it up a little bit their own way. And you're just like, don't say anything. Just let it be. It's done. It'll be okay. Hard. Yeah, for sure.
So hard. I have to bite my tongue a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But now he is getting a little better now that my son's a teenager. He's got him.
Oh, for sure.
He's got him in archery. He took, he goes hunting with them every year. He goes to deer camp, stays the whole week.
Awesome. That's awesome.
Yep. And my dad, he's got a gun. And right now he's splitting wood for my dad. Not right this minute, but last weekend he was splitting wood for my dad so he can make money to buy a new bow.
Nice.
Yeah.
So he's finding ways to make money and that's cool.
Well, and in the summertime, he mows the neighbor's lawns. He mows his lawn. Like, he does all sorts. He likes money. And the thing is he used to.
He likes money.
He sure does. He used to save his money, and he would not spend, like, if he wanted something and somebody else wouldn't buy it for him, he wouldn't get it.
That's crazy.
Because he loved having all that money in his pocket, But now that he found spending, he loves it. I'm, like, ungodly obsessed with Jelly Roll and his wife. Like, it's a little creepy, honestly. Like,
it is what it is. We'll tag them.
Yeah, do it. When I show up at your house, guys, in a robe with nothing on underneath, don't be surprised, because it's gonna happen. But so my son was gonna buy me his new album, and it's like he had it was autographed album, and like a beanie and a bandana and a box and all sorts of stuff. And he's like, "Oh man, Mom, I only have $26 on my card. I gotta go do some chores so that I can buy you your Jelly Roll stuff for your birthday." He already gave me a birthday present like 2 months ago, but
That's all right.
And then he's like, and your Mother's Day present and Christmas present. I'm like, bro, you're getting way ahead of yourself now. Like, I know I'm your mom, but like, you just save your money. Stop doing that because you're taking after me right now, and it's not good. Hopefully, he gets his money management skills from my aunt. You know,
Not just spend.
Yes, they have things because she's good with money. You know, she's very good with money. My uncle gets an allowance.
Yeah, if you can budget, you could make almost any amount and still do pretty good.
Yeah, and she works at RC. She's like high up at RCU. So, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So, I mean, what in the treatment and stuff have you found that's worked the best for you? Like, what keeps you going? Like, is it the shot? Is it counseling? Like, what?
Honestly, just wanting it. Just wanting to have a normal, sober life. That white picket fence life, as you say, you know, with my kids. And, you know, I just want to have that life with my kids, you know. That's why I want to build a tiny home and take them on the road and make memories with them, you know, like.
Yeah. When you lose time, it's all you can think of is how to get, because you can't get time back very easily. You know, you can't get it back at all, but you can do things to make up for time.
Right.
To try to make new memories that you didn't do before, you know.
Yep. Yeah, and when I was doing, like, I was offered inpatient treatment multiple times, but I denied it because I feel if I am being forced to do it, I'm forced to do it. If I can do it on my own, then I know I'll be able to, you know, I'll be able to stay this way. But if I'm doing it in jail or treatment, it's not going to work for me. I know that it's not, because I know myself. I know that as soon as I get out, the first thing I'm going to do is get high because I can, because fuck you.
Exactly.
You know, like, and that's exactly like how Journey's dad is. He's the same way, you know. He really needs to be able to do it by himself, you know. And it's hard to do it like that, but
it's
like,
really
if you have
hard.
that want, you know, like, that's like I was saying earlier, I have no desire to do meth or heroin. You know, I have no desire to, I mean, I smoke weed, but ain't nothing wrong with that. I ain't meth or heroin.
Well,
so.
the country is leaning that way, where it's going to be, I mean, our actually surrounding, I see it, they were making kind of jokes the other day that, like, we are surrounded Michigan, Illinois, Minnesota. It's all good all there, but right here in Wisconsin, it's not happening, you know.
Yeah,
so
I know. It's ridiculous.
It's really leaning that way, so.
Yep.
Soon weed will be just like alcohol.
You'll
be able to buy it.
As soon as they legalize it here, I'm going to a shop and getting me a job.
and just, you know, use in moderation, do things, don't overdo it and become addicted to it, and you'll be fine. You know,
John told me this a few months ago. I didn't even know this. I think it's just one state right now, but they have like heroin clinics and meth clinics where they give you a daily dose. Just like the methadone clinic.
I've heard of that in Canada, I believe, but I haven't heard of it in the U.S., but I'm sure they do
Canada,
it. But I've heard of it in other countries.
I can't remember what state he said it was.
Right. But I bet you if you look, they probably have experimental programs that you just...
And I mean, I get it. I do. But like...
It's just all harm reduction.
Yeah. And why put the money into doing that if you can put, you know, like... treatment facilities, some regular treatment facilities work well. Some people need different ones, like the Reckless Saints.
Well, right. Anybody can get clean. You just have to want to get clean. Like,
right, but they should be putting all this money towards treatments.
Right.
You know, different treatment centers that help different people and actually can help. Like, yeah, people make donations and stuff like that, but we're building all these other things to get people high. What the hell is the point?
I guess like what they've kind of found is like, so for example, like those where they let you have your dose of heroin, like they talked to one guy who would come in the morning before work and take a dose, and he would come again later in the day in the evening, and he said those 2 doses would get him through the day, and he didn't have to go in the streets, and he was just a functioning user, and that's basically what they're trying to do.
And I mean, there are functioning users, but why do we want to be functioning users?
Right, that's the whole
like,
thing, is why are they want to set that up where everybody can just be functioning users rather than actually live a clean life and have your brain heal.
Thing, like population control, and it's the government taking control,
But if you're doing that,
anything like that, but
where's if you're doing it like that, you're no longer, there's people aren't ODing anymore. They haven't had any ODs at all. So you're not, that whole population control and stuff isn't really a valid argument for them anymore.
Right.
Like, they're not allowing people to overdose anymore. Like,
right, but they're basically, they're basically feeding them poison.
Right, I guess they're letting you destroy your body from the inside out.
Yeah, when we live our best lives healthy, like they should be trying to help everyone get healthy, not make us worse,
I agree. That's what I was saying earlier with the cancer thing. It shouldn't be about money. It should be about getting better.
The fact that we have places like the ARC and like that and stuff, but people with diabetes can't get insulin, stuff like that just drives me absolutely bonkers. Like,
yeah, there's a lot of crazy stuff like that.
This world could be, our country could be great. We could have, and I mean, they could tax the shit out of the stuff,
They do with a lot of stuff. Like, they already do.
Yeah, that's for sure.
It's crazy. Well, Sam, do you have anything else you want to add today? No, you good?
Good.
Feel good? I'm good. Awesome. Well,
Thank you for having me.
I appreciate you coming. This was a great conversation. I hope to have you back again sometime.
Definitely.
So, take care, everybody. Please like and subscribe. Stay safe and stay healthy.